The year is 323 BC. In Babylon, the greatest conqueror the world has ever known lies dying at age 32. Alexander the Great, the man who conquered the known world, is taking his final breath. When asked who should inherit his empire, he whispers, "The strongest." Then he dies. His empire, stretching from Greece to India, immediately collapses into chaos. This is the story of Alexander the Great, a man who never lost a battle, a king who conquered 3 continents by age 30, a legend who changed the world forever, and a mystery that still haunts historians. How did he die? And what could he have achieved if he had lived? Alexander was born in 356 BC in Pella, the capital of Macedon, a kingdom in northern Greece. His father was King Philip II, one of the greatest military minds of ancient Greece. His mother was Olympias, a fierce and ambitious woman who claimed descent from Achilles, the legendary hero of the Trojan War. From birth, Alexander was told he was destined for greatness. Olympias filled his head with stories of Achilles and heroes. She told him he was born to conquer. Philip saw potential in his son and gave him the best education money could buy. At age 13, Alexander's tutor arrived, Aristotle. Yes, that Aristotle. The greatest philosopher in history became Alexander's personal teacher. For 3 years, Aristotle taught Alexander philosophy, science, medicine, and literature. Alexander fell in love with Homer's Iliad, the epic tale of Achilles and the Trojan War. He kept a copy under his pillow for his entire life, alongside his dagger. Aristotle taught him to think strategically, to question everything, to see patterns others missed. But Alexander wasn't just a scholar. He was training to be a warrior. At age 12, something happened that would define Alexander's legend. A wild horse named Bucephalus was brought to King Philip's court. The horse was massive, black, and completely untamable. Every rider who tried was thrown off violently. Philip ordered the horse taken away, but young Alexander spoke up. He bet his father he could tame the horse. Philip laughed, but agreed. If Alexander failed, he would pay for the horse himself, a fortune for a 12-year-old. Alexander had noticed something the others hadn't. The horse was afraid of its own shadow. He turned Bucephalus toward the sun so the horse couldn't see its shadow, spoke gently, and mounted him. Bucephalus calmed immediately. Alexander rode him around the arena in triumph. Philip reportedly said with tears in his eyes, "My son, seek a kingdom worthy of you. Macedon is too small." Bucephalus became Alexander's warhorse for the next 20 years, carrying him across 3 continents. At age 16, Alexander got his first taste of command. While Philip was away at war, enemies attacked Macedon. Alexander, left as regent, didn't wait for his father. He raised an army, marched out, and crushed the rebellion. He founded his first city, naming it Alexandropolis. He was 16 years old. 2 years later, at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC, 18-year-old Alexander commanded the cavalry that broke the enemy lines, securing victory for Macedon. Philip had united Greece under Macedonian control. He planned to invade Persia next, the superpower of the ancient world, but he never got the chance. In 336 BC, at a wedding celebration, King Philip II was assassinated, stabbed by his own bodyguard in front of everyone. The assassin was killed immediately, taking his motives to the grave. Some historians suspect Olympias, Alexander's mother, was involved. Some suspect Alexander himself. The truth died with Philip, but one thing was certain. Alexander, at age 20, was now king of Macedon, and he inherited his father's army and his father's dream of conquering Persia. The Greek city-states, seeing Philip dead, immediately rebelled. They thought a 20-year-old boy king would be weak. They were catastrophically wrong. Alexander moved with terrifying speed. He marched his army south and crushed the first rebellion within weeks. When the city of Thebes rebelled again, Alexander made an example. He besieged the city, broke through the walls, and destroyed it completely. He sold the entire population into slavery, except for one house, the house where the poet Pindar had once lived. Alexander spared it out of respect for culture. The message was clear: rebel and you die. Respect culture and you're rewarded. Greece fell silent. No one dared challenge Alexander again. Now he could focus on his real target: Persia. The Persian Empire was the superpower of the ancient world. It stretched from Egypt to India, controlling millions of people and unimaginable wealth. It was the same empire that had invaded Greece 150 years earlier. The same empire the 300 Spartans had died fighting at Thermopylae. For Greeks, Persia was the eternal enemy. Alexander's father had dreamed of conquering it. Now, at age 22, Alexander would make that dream reality. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed into Asia with 40,000 soldiers. The Persian Empire had armies numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Alexander was outnumbered from the start, but he had something Persia didn't: the Macedonian phalanx and the greatest tactical mind in history. His first major battle came at the Granicus River. Persian forces waited on the opposite bank, in a strong defensive position. Alexander's generals advised caution: wait, plan, probe for weakness. Alexander didn't wait. He charged directly into the river leading from the front. His army followed. The Persians, shocked by the audacity, broke formation. Alexander's cavalry smashed through. The battle was over in hours. Persia's western defenses collapsed. Alexander liberated the Greek cities of Asia Minor from Persian control. He was hailed as a liberator. But this was just the beginning. King Darius III of Persia, hearing of this upstart Macedonian king, assembled a massive army. Ancient sources claim 600,000 soldiers, though modern historians estimate around 100,000. Either way, it dwarfed Alexander's force. They met at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC. Darius positioned his army in a narrow coastal plain, thinking it would neutralize Alexander's cavalry. It was a mistake. Alexander personally led a cavalry charge directly at Darius himself. The Macedonian cavalry smashed through the Persian center, heading straight for the king. Darius, seeing Alexander cutting through his guards, panicked. He fled the battlefield. The Persian army, seeing their king run, collapsed. Alexander captured Darius's entire camp, including his mother, wife, and children. He treated them with respect, a calculated move to show he was a better ruler than Darius. Darius sent a letter offering peace. He would give Alexander half his empire and his daughter's hand in marriage. Alexander's general, Parmenion, said, "If I were Alexander, I would accept." Alexander replied, "If I were Parmenion, I would accept." He rejected the offer. He wanted the entire Persian Empire. Alexander marched south into Egypt. The Egyptians, who hated Persian rule, welcomed him as a liberator. The Egyptian priests declared him pharaoh and son of the god Amun. Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, which would become one of the greatest cities in history. He was 25 years old and already controlled half the known world. But Darius wasn't finished. He assembled one final, massive army. Ancient sources claim over 1 million soldiers. Modern estimates suggest 250,000. He armed them with scythed chariots, cavalry, elephants, and every weapon imaginable. They met at the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. Darius chose an open plain, perfect for his massive army and chariots. Alexander, with 47,000 soldiers, faced perhaps 250,000 Persians. This was it, the battle that would decide the fate of the world. Alexander deployed his phalanx in an oblique formation, a tactic he learned from his father. He positioned his cavalry on the flanks. Darius launched his scythed chariots. Alexander's troops opened gaps in the formation and let the chariots pass through harmlessly. Then he did what he always did. He led a cavalry charge directly at Darius. Alexander smashed through the Persian left flank, carving a path toward the great king. His cavalry, the elite companion cavalry, followed like a spear thrust into the enemy heart. Darius, once again, saw Alexander coming for him. Once again, he fled. The Persian army, seeing their king abandon them, broke. It was the greatest victory in military history. Alexander had destroyed the Persian Empire. Darius fled east but was murdered by his own generals, hoping to gain Alexander's favor. It didn't work. Alexander hunted them down and executed them for treason. He declared himself King of Persia. He sat on the throne that had ruled the ancient world for 200 years. He was 25 years old. Most conquerors would have stopped there. Alexander didn't. He kept going. He marched into Central Asia, conquering Bactria and Sogdia, regions that had never been touched by Greek armies. He fought guerrilla wars in the mountains and steppes. He founded cities everywhere he went, spreading Greek culture across Asia. He married Roxana, a Central Asian princess, to solidify his control. His army was exhausted, but Alexander pushed them further. He wanted India. In 326 BC, Alexander crossed into India. He faced King Porus, who commanded an army with 200 war elephants. Alexander had never fought elephants before. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, Alexander used brilliant tactics. He crossed the river at night during a storm, surprising Porus. His phalanx held the elephants at bay with long spears. His cavalry attacked the flanks. Porus fought bravely but was defeated. Alexander, impressed by his courage, let Porus keep his kingdom as an ally. But Alexander's army had reached their limit. They had been marching and fighting for 8 years. They were 11,000 miles from home. They heard rumors of even larger Indian kingdoms ahead. At the Hyphasis River, Alexander's army mutinied. They refused to go further. Alexander raged. He locked himself in his tent for 3 days, hoping they would change their minds. They didn't. For the first time in his life, Alexander couldn't move forward. Heartbroken, he agreed to turn back. But even the return journey was brutal. Alexander led his army through the Gedrosian desert, one of the harshest deserts on earth. Thousands died from heat and thirst. It was one of the few mistakes of his career. In 323 BC, Alexander returned to Babylon. He was planning new campaigns: Arabia, North Africa, Western Europe. He wanted to conquer the entire world, but then he fell ill. After a banquet, he developed a fever. It didn't go away. For 12 days, he grew weaker. On June 10th or 11th, 323 BC, Alexander the Great died. He was 32 years old. The cause of death remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Was it malaria, typhoid fever, poison, assassination? We may never know. Before he died, his generals asked who should inherit his empire. Alexander whispered, "The strongest." It was a catastrophic answer. With no clear heir, his empire immediately fractured. His generals, the Diadochi, fought for decades over the pieces. Alexander's wife and son were both murdered. His empire, the largest the world had ever seen, collapsed within years. But his legacy endured. Alexander spread Greek culture across 3 continents. The cities he founded became centers of learning. Alexandria in Egypt became the intellectual capital of the ancient world, home to the Great Library. Greek became the common language across the known world. Greek philosophy, art, and science spread everywhere. This period, the Hellenistic Age, lasted 300 years. Alexander's conquests connected East and West in ways that shaped history. Trade routes he established became the Silk Road. His military tactics are still studied today. He never lost a battle, not one. In 15 years of campaigning, he was undefeated. But Alexander wanted more than conquest. He believed in mixing cultures. He married Persian women. He encouraged his soldiers to do the same. He adopted Persian customs and dress, which angered some Macedonians. He dreamed of a unified world where Greek and Persian lived as equals. It was revolutionary for his time. Some saw it as genius. Others called it treason. He was larger than life, charismatic, brilliant, fearless. He led from the front in every battle. He was wounded multiple times. An arrow through the lung in India nearly killed him. He drank with his soldiers. He honored bravery. He wept when his horse Bucephalus died and founded a city in his honor. But he was also ruthless. He could be cruel. He killed friends in drunken rages. He destroyed cities. He sold populations into slavery. He demanded to be worshipped as a god. His ambition was limitless, and it consumed him. Alexander the Great remains one of the most debated figures in history. Was he a visionary or a tyrant? A liberator or a conqueror? A military genius or a lucky madman? Perhaps he was all of these. What's undeniable is this: he changed the world forever. He proved that one person, with enough will and brilliance, can reshape history. And he did it all by age 32. Imagine what he could have done if he had lived. What other stories has history tried to bury? Subscribe to Ancient Echoes and discover the heroes the world forgot.